it's MK. I am back for a short follow-up video today that relates to the last video that I uploaded, and that was the one about adding borders to that pantograph. I posted that video online and there was some questions and maybe a little bit of confusion about the line drawing that I was using in that demonstration. Just a little bit of background for you. So I do teach online classes. This YouTube video that I'm doing is meant to really just give you snippets and little tidbits of information to get your brain working about how you can use simulation. I'd be delighted to talk to you about one of my classes where you get more in-depth, detailed information. Back to the line drawing. I use those line drawings when I'm teaching my classes to help give a visual reference for what we're speaking about. It's not something that I necessarily plan to stitch, although it could be if you sized it appropriately. But I'm going to take you into simulation and I'm just going to talk about that line drawing a little bit more, how I created it, how I resize it, and how I use it in my teaching. If you want afterwards, you can try to replicate that, or you can go into the files section of the Facebook group and download some instructions and a file that my friend Linda shared with us. So I'll meet you in simulation and then we'll be back here to close up.
Okay everyone, so here we are. So in our last session, we were going over setting up a pantograph in this inside area, and we did that really quickly. And then we were adding on a border. Now, this line drawing that you're seeing here is just a representation of what the quilt might look like. In this example, we were using a quilt that was 40 by 55 with a 5-inch border. Now, we could close that line drawing if we wanted to. Let me just select just that line drawing, and let's just close it. So, we could continue to do everything that we were doing without that line drawing in the background. Everything would work just the same. I find it's easier when I'm teaching to have that line drawing as a visual reference to what I'm speaking about. So let me go through just exactly how I even set that up and just talk you through that a little bit. So let's do select all and close. No, we won't save that, and let's just clear our area. All right, so to begin with, let me just open for you a very simple block. Let me pan that over so you can see it. This is a very simple block that I created in Art and Stitch. Now, I know that Art and Stitch is something that some of you know a little bit about, some of you know a lot about. If you want to go through the instructions that my friend Linda shared with me, you can go into Art and Stitch and you can create yourself a line drawing that you can use in your simulator to represent quilts. If you don't want to know how to do that or learn how to do that, you can just use the file that Linda shared with you. And we shared that in the Facebook group. So let's talk about this. I want to make this simple block that's currently a 10 by 10 inch just line drawing block. I want to make that into the size of my quilt. So we can resize this pattern just like we resize any other pattern. So let's make the height 55 and let's make the width 40. All right, and let's hit refresh. So there is a representation of the entire area of our quilt. I'm just going to baseline. Now, I want to create an area that represents the inside area. So I'm going to take this line drawing and I'm just going to duplicate it. Then I'm going to resize it. I'm going to resize that down to 30 and the height to 45. Okay, well now obviously they're not aligned anywhere close to what they need to be to represent a quilt. So next I'm going to create an area that's 40 by 55, and I'm going to start aligning both of these rectangles into that area. So I'm going to press select just to see which one is selected. So right now this smaller one is selected. Let's go to align and align it in the center, both vertically and horizontally. Next, we'll select that other box. Now, it's called a 10-inch block because that's what it was when I opened it. We have since resized it, so don't be confused about that. We're just going to align it in the center, both vertically and horizontally. Select all and refresh. So there we have it. There's a representation of a quilt that we can use if we want to while we're working in simulation. Right now, however, it's still two patterns open, and I want to group that together as one pattern. So let's just select all, and I'm going to hit baseline, and I want you to watch what happens to the names of those designs. So I baseline and it takes it down to a merged group. In other words, it's now from 2 files down to 1 file. Well, I don't like that name. Let's just give it a new name. Let's call it Quilt 40 by 55 with 5-inch border. Okay, so we know now that if we want to use that in the future, we can. Naming it doesn't save it, however, so let's go ahead and save it. And yes, I had already created it once before. I'll go ahead and overwrite that file. Okay, so you now have a quilt that you can work with if you so choose in simulation. And I've showed you how you can take one simple box and create it to any size you want to simulate a quilt. Very important though, this isn't something that you have to use when you're working in your simulator. I just like it as a visual background. This is nothing that I could stitch. It's way too big for any of our throat depths. It's merely just a visual representation of a quilt so that we can kind of see it come together on the screen. I hope this has been helpful and maybe cleared things up a little bit for you. If you have any further questions on this, please don't hesitate to shoot me a private Facebook message or post in the group, make a comment on the YouTube video. However you want to contact me, I'm happy to help you understand what it was that I was doing here. And until next time, everyone, happy quilting.
Okay, there you have it, short and sweet. You can use a line drawing inside of simulation. You certainly don't have to. Until next time, everybody, from my studio to yours, happy quilting. Bye-bye.
Sings my heart, sings.